Good morning. You're watching DD India and I'm Preeti presenting this edition of Breakfast News this morning. In the next one hour, we'll get you through everything that's making it to the headlines. We'll get you the top stories first. Government announces liberalized and accelerated third phase vaccination strategy. 18 years of age and above to receive COVID-19 vaccine from 1st of May. Meeting chaired by Prime Minister also decides to incentivize vaccine production as well as attract new players. Prime Minister chairs series of crucial meetings to take stock of the COVID situation across the country. Interacts with leading doctors and top pharma companies. Prime Minister appreciates the crucial role played by doctors, medical and paramedical staff during the pandemic. Urges pharma industry to conduct more researches on threats which can occur in the future along with COVID. COVID cases continue to rise in the country. Delhi goes to week-long lockdown. Kerala announces night curfew starting today. BJP to restrict large rallies in West Bengal amidst the COVID spike. Meanwhile, vaccination drive continues at high momentum with 73,600 COVID vaccination centres operational. More than 12.69 crore doses of vaccine administered so far. External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar speaks to his American counterpart Antony Blinken. Leaders discuss regional security issues, global issues including climate change and cooperation in health sector. United States opens up free vaccination for all above 16 years of age from today. President Joe Biden urges all Americans to get vaccinated at the earliest. Amidst disturbances in the football world following announcement of Super League, UEFA approves new format for club competitions. New format to be applied from 2024-25 season. All right, those are the top stories we're tracking this hour. Up next, we get to the news in detail. The centre has announced a liberalised and accelerated strategy of COVID-19 vaccination drive in the country yesterday evening. Now, this will be the critical phase 3 of the world's largest vaccination drive. In a meeting chaired by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, an important decision of allowing vaccination to everyone above 18 years of age from 1st of May was taken. Further, several important decisions regarding making vaccines pricing and procurement flexible were also taken. States have also been empowered to procure additional vaccine doses directly from the manufacturers. This and more in this report.
Fight against the COVID-19 pandemic, the NDA government has decided to expand the ambit of vaccination considerably. In a meeting chaired by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, an important decision of allowing vaccination to everyone above the age of 18 from 1st May has been taken. India's approach so far has been built on scientific and epidemiological pillars. India has been following a dynamic mapping model based on availability of vaccines and coverage of vulnerable priority groups to take decisions of when to open up vaccinations to other age groups. So far, the nation has seen 2 phases of the national COVID-19 vaccination strategy. Phase 1 of the national COVID-19 vaccination strategy was launched on 16th January this year. It prioritized protection for healthcare workers and frontline workers. As systems and processes stabilized, the Phase 2 was initiated from 1st March 2021. The Phase 2 focused on protecting the most vulnerable, that is, all people above 45 years of age. The private sector was also roped in to augment capacity. Now, the government has announced the Phase 3 of the national vaccine strategy. It will come into effect from 1st May 2021. The Phase 3 aims at liberalized vaccine pricing and scaling up of vaccine coverage. This would augment vaccine production as well as its availability. Government has been working hard to ensure that maximum number of Indians are able to get the vaccine in the shortest possible time. Government has proactively engaged and coordinated with stakeholders across the spectrum, from research institutes to national and international manufacturers, global regulators, etc. The latest decision by the government will now enable the vaccination ambit to include a vast majority of Indian citizens, as well as streamline the availability of vaccines to all stakeholders. It would also make pricing, procurement, eligibility and administration of vaccines open and flexible, allowing all stakeholders the flexibility to customize to local needs and dynamics. Indeed, it is a shot in the arm for the entire nation in the fight against COVID-19. Bureau Report, TD India.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi yesterday also chaired a series of crucial meetings to take stock of the COVID situation across the country. He interacted with doctors across the country via video conferencing on the COVID-19 issue and also vaccination progress. While appreciating the doctors, medical and paramedical staff for their invaluable service during pandemic, Prime Minister Modi said that as they did during the first wave, they are confronting the pandemic with full force and are saving lives of millions of people in the second wave as well. Prime Minister also said that vaccination is the biggest weapon in the fight against COVID-19. He urged the doctors to encourage more and more patients to get vaccinated, as well as about COVID treatment and prevention. Prime Minister noted that this time the pandemic is spreading rapidly in Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities as well. Prime Minister called for accelerating efforts to upgrade resources in such places. He also urged doctors to connect with their colleagues working in Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities and give them online consultations to ensure that all protocols are followed correctly. The doctors shared their experiences in dealing with the COVID pandemic. They also congratulated Prime Minister on his leadership in dealing with the pandemic. The Prime Minister also interacted with leaders of pharmaceutical industry via video conferencing. He appreciated the way the pharma industry is working even in such trying conditions to keep the supply of medicines and essential medical equipment going smooth. Prime Minister urged the pharma industry to ensure seamless supply chains. Prime Minister also extended the government's support for facilities like logistics and transportation. He also assured that the government is undertaking reforms for new drugs and regulatory processes. The leaders of the pharma industry appreciated the proactive help and support received from the government. Amidst unprecedented rise in COVID-19 cases across the country in the last 1 month, some states have brought back restrictions to break the cases of resurgence. After Rajasthan announcing a stringent lockdown, 6-day lockdown has been imposed in the national capital, Delhi, since 10 p.m. yesterday. The announcement was made by Chief Minister Kejriwal, terming it necessary to prevent a bigger crisis. The state government is also firming up health infrastructure in view of sudden spike in numbers, with additional beds for COVID patients being set up in COVID hospitals to meet the demands. Meanwhile, Delhi Metro will ply during the morning hours from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. and evening from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. peak hours across the network with a frequency of 30 minutes. Also, according to the DMRC, during rest of the time, frequency of the trains would be 60 minutes. Also, services during lockdown period can be availed only by the exempted category of people on the production of valid identity cards. Tapas Bhattacharya is joining us for more from Delhi, and also Aisha will be joining us from Karnataka. Tapas, coming across to you first. From yesterday onwards, the lockdown for 6 days ahead has been announced by the Delhi government. Let us know how has the morning begun, what do you see on the roads, and also very quickly let us know the current situation as regards COVID-19 in the national capital.
Come out of they got a major rude shock that it is locked down, and in fact when I was in there in the morning, I was here taking a look at the situation out here. Though we saw many maids who try to come to the apartments, who try to enter the apartment, but they're told that it is they are not allowed. The only worry in their face was how they will manage and whether their salary will be deducted, their monthly salary will be deducted, and those are some of the worries that that was there. Yesterday evening also we saw a lot of migrant workers trying to leave the city, especially in the Anandia bus terminal and other places. There was seen a lot of number of people who were there and trying to get a bus to their respective states. So those are certain things that was a worrisome factor yesterday evening till today in the morning. In fact, that's something that you can see. In fact, a close look at where I am currently. This is one of the arterial road which connects the Delhi-Noida border, and this, as of now, it's 8:13, and already this particular place is almost deserted. Generally, it doesn't happen. If I can just show you, this particular road is almost deserted, and this particular road is what you call the arterial road which connects Delhi to Noida. So the lockdown has been in force, and the Delhiites are actually grappling with the situation currently, as the number of cases has gone up considerably. In fact, let me tell you that in Delhi, yesterday when the Delhi Health Bulletin came out, the number of cases was quite high. In fact, the number of fatalities was also very high, in fact over 260, and that is another record that happened. And the positivity rate for the last 4 to 5 days has been almost 30%. What it means is that almost out of the 3 testing that has been done, almost out of 3, 1 has been found to be positive. So the positivity case has risen tremendously. A lot of people are wondering what has happened, where it actually went wrong, and the blame for that actually would be on those people who do not wear masks, do not follow the COVID behavior protocol. In fact, in many of the markets of the national capital, we have seen many a times people not adhering to COVID protocol behavior and not wearing masks, and that has led to the situation where now Delhi is under a 6-day curfew, and only essential services are allowed to be on the road as of now. Preeti.
All right, Tapas, also very quickly, we want to give us a word on the current medical facilities and how well are the medical facilities equipped in the national capital in view of the rising cases. What is the situation like in the hospitals across the national capital?
It's nothing to write home about, Preeti. Let me tell you my own personal experience as somebody who required a medical, elderly person who required a medical emergency day before yesterday night at around 12 o'clock, and I had to take them to almost 3-4 hospitals. We called up almost every hospital that was at that time possible, but couldn't provide them medical supply, especially oxygen beds that are absolutely finished out in the national capital. And it was a scary situation, a scary period. So from 12 o'clock in the midnight to almost 6 o'clock in the morning, I was on the road of Delhi trying to figure it out a bed for that particular patient, that elderly patient. Unfortunately, the patient passed away yesterday, afternoon, and it still couldn't make it, couldn't find that bed. So it's a scary situation out here. And my and humble request to each and every person who is listening to this particular video, that they should stay at home. Please follow COVID protocol behavior. Mask is an absolute must, because at this particular time, there are hardly any beds left in the hospital, and if by any chance one gets COVID positive and they do get that, they had to be admitted in a hospital, it's a very, very scary situation as of now. As I speak to you, Preeti, there are absolutely nil ICU beds with oxygen cylinder in Delhi as of now.
All right, the situation grim in the national capital. Thank you so much, Tapas, for joining us with those inputs. That was our correspondent Tapas telling us more about the implementation of the lockdown, which had been announced in the national capital from 10 p.m. yesterday onwards for the next 6 days. Let's turn focus on to Kerala now. Kerala will impose night curfew from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. from today. The decision was taken at the core committee meeting called by Chief Secretary yesterday. Public transport and goods movement will be exempted from curfew. Thrissur Puram, the festival at Thrissur, Varakunatha temple will be conducted without public participation, with rituals performed by organizers as per tradition. Thrissur Puram, which used to witness lakhs of devotees appreciating the elephant processions and Panchavadya, was cancelled last year as well. The core committee also decided to ban any sort of private tuition involving physical classes. The State Education Department has decided to go ahead with scheduled 10th and 12th class examinations, strictly adhering to COVID protocols. Oxygen requirements of the Maharashtra state will soon be met, as the first oxygen express carrying 7 empty tankers left from near Mumbai yesterday night for Visakhapatnam. Now, according to Railways, the RoRo or roll-on roll-off train will be loaded with liquid medical oxygen at Visakhapatnam steel plant and will be brought to Maharashtra. Tankers are expected to return in 4 days with 100 metric tons of liquid oxygen. The Central Railways Mumbai division built a ramp within 24 hours at Kalamboli Goods Yard to facilitate loading and unloading of tankers in and from flat wagons. Also on Sunday, the Railways had announced that it will run Oxygen Express over the next few days to transport liquid medical oxygen and oxygen cylinders across the country. Under the initiative, empty tankers will be loaded with liquid medical oxygen from Visakhapatnam, Jamshedpur, Rourkela and Bokaro for supply all over the country. Meanwhile, Ministry of Railways has clarified that Indian Railways is running its passenger trains normally. Keeping in view the pandemic situation, passengers are requested to avoid any panic or speculation and come to station only if they have confirmed or RAC ticket. It added that all social distancing norms will be followed and there is no reason for anyone to panic and speculate. Let's get you an update from Karnataka now. Karnataka government has called an all-party meeting today, and the governor and chief minister are expected to attend the meeting virtually. State chief minister is undergoing treatment for COVID-19 at a private hospital. A final decision with regard to the stringent measures are expected today. Earlier, B.S. Yediyurappa held a crucial meet with all elected representatives of the state and gathered suggestions to draft a strategy to stop the spread of COVID-19 in the state. On Monday, Karnataka reported new cases to the tune of 15,785 and Bangalore urban with the highest case of 9,618, taking the total of fresh cases to 11,76,850. To get us more on that, our correspondent Aisha is joining us. Aisha, we will see that the meeting will take place today during the day, but I would want you to spell out more on the situation presently in the state. We tell our viewers that 11,76,850 fresh new cases were reported.
Yes, Preeti, the cases are increasing, but on the other hand, the situation is very grim. And even the Karnataka State Health Minister, Dr. Sudhakar, has admitted that the system is choking now because as the cases increase, the beds are, there is a shortage of beds, there is shortage of ICU units, there is shortage of oxygen, and these are the things that the government is looking into rather than a total lockdown in the state. Because yesterday there was a meeting for about 3 hours, and this meeting came to a conclusion that there is no need for any lockdown in the state. And now the government is focusing on providing and ramping up the infrastructure and increasing the oxygen supply and creating more beds for the patients. The fact that the government yesterday assured that there is enough oxygen available in the state and over 812 tons of oxygen is available and this is produced in the 7 oxygen medical oxygen plants. But the fact is that the government or the hospitals do not have the storage facility of for this oxygen, because the bigger hospitals have storage facility, the smaller nursing homes and other hospitals do not have any storage facility, and they have to replace the cylinders in the nursing homes. So this is one big problem. The logistics, reaching out to the people, reaching out to the emergency care is one big problem that the government is facing. And now they will look at ramping up these medical infrastructure and Also, the fact that yesterday the situation showed, the government said that there are over 500 ICU beds with ventilators available, but on ground it was just 15, and this led to chaos and panic among the people. Though there is assurance given from the government side that there is no need to panic, the government will create more COVID care centers and convert the hotels into makeshift hospitals. But the fact that on ground the situation is really grim, and people who have reached hospital are struggling, and also those who are being admitted in serious conditions are being given a treatment for 3 days and 4 days, and then they are asked to discharge so that the more severe cases can be accommodated on those beds. So this is a grim situation that the government is staring at in Karnataka, and today's all-party meeting will once again deliberate on what needs to be done to ramp up the medical infrastructure, to boost the oxygen supply, to help the hospitals and private nursing homes to take care of the patients. So the fact that there is no lockdown, there will be no lockdown in the state, is clear that the government does not wish to add to the chaos and put people to more difficulty and hardship in the state. Preeti?
All right. Thank you so much, Aisha, for joining us with those inputs. That was our correspondent, Aisha, joining us and telling us that the situation in the state of Karnataka is grim. Though we also tell that an all-party meeting today will be held to further deliberate on the stringent measures that are to be taken in the state in view of the rising COVID cases. We'll keep you updated. Let's get to other news. BJP has decided that it will not conduct big rallies in West Bengal. Only small public meetings having not more than 500 people, that too in open space, will be conducted. Thus, no more than 500 people each will be allowed in Prime Minister Narendra Modi and other BJP campaigners' remaining poll rallies in Bengal. Party President JP Nadda said that the decision has been taken in view of COVID surge in the country. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will now visit Bengal on Friday, April 23rd, and address 4 rallies in Malda, Murshidabad, Birbhum and South Kolkata. The original plan was to have these 4 rallies spread over 2 days on April 21st and April 24th. BJP functionaries said that all rallies would follow COVID prevention guidelines. Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla called on a virtual meeting of presiding officers of state assemblies to discuss the COVID-19 situation in the country and the role of public representatives. This was the first such gathering of presiding officers to discuss the role of legislative assemblies during a pandemic. The Speaker said that the health infrastructure during these times has been under severe strain nationwide. He further added that the legislative will have to discharge its duties even more diligently during the testing times.
संक्रमण में आई तेज रफ्तार के कारण देश के कई हिस्सों में स्वास्थ्य सुविधाएं दबाव में हैं। कई स्थानों से अस्पतालों में बेड की कमी, जरूरी दवाइयों, ऑक्सीजन सिलेंडर की कमी की सूचनाएं भी हमें समय समय पर मिलती रहती है। मेरा आपसे अनुरोध है कि आप सभी अपने अपने राज्य के जनप्रतिनिधियों से ये आग्रह करें कि वो प्रशासन और सरकार से लगातार संपर्क करके जनता की कठिनाइयों को दूर करने का प्रयास करें, ताकि हम जनता को राहत दिला सकें। वे अपने क्षेत्रों में सभी सरकारी और निजी अस्पतालों में भी निरंतर संपर्क में रहें।
The total vaccinations across the country has crossed more than 12.69 crore mark, with over 31.03 lakh vaccine doses administered yesterday. The country has witnessed highest number of operational COVID vaccination centers till date today. Total of 73,600 COVID vaccination centers are operational, marking a rise of more than 28,600 operational vaccination centers. Workplace vaccinations have also enabled such a high turnout of beneficiaries. The cumulative number of COVID-19 vaccine doses administered in the country so far stands at 12 crore 69 lakh 56,032. A total of 31 lakh 3,474 vaccine doses were given yesterday, the 94th day of nationwide COVID-19 vaccination drive. All right, Rajiv Bhattacharya is joining us with more on phone line from West Bengal. Rajiv, we've told our viewers that BJP has decided that a limited number of followers will be allowed in the election rallies of Prime Minister that will be conducted on April 23rd. Spell out more details. Also, let us know, what preparations are being put in place for a smooth conduct of the elections.
Right, Preeti. As you said, the Bharatiya Janata Party has decided that henceforth all public rallies will have no more than 500 people, and that too in open spaces, keeping in view the spread of COVID in the country. Earlier also, the CPIM had announced that it would not hold large rallies and would rather concentrate on door-to-door contacts, or say through campaigning through social media. The Congress leader and especially Rahul Gandhi had also said that they're cancelling their campaigns in view of the COVID, and therefore campaigning in West Bengal has become muted. As you know, we have only 3 more phases to go: the 6th, 7th, and 8th. The 6th is on the 22nd. The 7th is on the 26th, and the 8th and the final one is on the 29th. And therefore, keeping everything in mind, there is a sense of, I wouldn't say fear, but also sense of anxiety that everything be conducted in such a manner that there's no further spread of COVID, and therefore we'll have to hope and see how the thing really pans out. Preeti?
All right, I would want you also to let us know more about the 6th phase of polling. Which all constituencies are going to polls? What is the political contest like? Who are the star contenders in this phase? Spell out more on the 6th phase of polling, Rajiv.
Right. The 6th phase of polling takes place on the 22nd. The new directions of the Election Commission, campaigning for the 6th phase came to an end yesterday evening, and these seats that going to the polls are, seats of Middle Bengal, a bit of the Western Bengal, western part of West Bengal, that is, and districts where you see the issues mainly are connected to the city, and then of course a part of the what is known as Gaur, or the part of Middle Bengal. Therefore, the candidates also here, there are some candidates who are part of the ministry. There are middle ranking and some heavyweight leaders. But of course, all in what political parlance is called the stars will come in the 7th and 8th phase, although there are quite a few well-known faces in the 6th phase, say in terms of local politics or in terms of district politics in those areas. Preeti?
All right, Rajiv, thank you so much for joining us with those inputs. That was our correspondent Rajiv Bhattacharya spelling out more details on the 6th phase of polling, and he also talked of how specific measures are being taken to ensure that limited number of people are allowed in the election rallies, and that too the rallies will be held in open spaces. Let's turn focus on to other news now. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar and his American counterpart Antony Blinken yesterday discussed on phone the bilateral and regional issues including Afghanistan, Myanmar and climate change. In a tweet, Dr. S. Jaishankar said, and I quote, "Conversation covered recent developments in India's immediate and extended neighborhood, exchanged views on the UNSC agenda, also discussed issues pertaining to our health cooperation." Blinken also termed the conversation as a warm and productive one. The two leaders agreed to close and frequent coordination in support of a lasting peace and development for the people of Afghanistan. They also reaffirmed their shared commitment to democratic values and mutual support for the restoration of democracy in Myanmar. United Kingdom Prime Minister Boris Johnson has cancelled his visit to India due on April 25th and 26th on Monday in view of the prevailing COVID situation. The statement issued by External Affairs Ministry said In view of the prevailing COVID situation, it has been decided by mutual agreement that Prime Minister of the United Kingdom will not visit India next week. The two sides will be holding a virtual meeting in the coming days to launch plans for a transformed India-UK relationship. Both the leaders attached highest importance to taking India-UK partnership to its fullest potential and also proposed to remain in close touch in this regard and look forward to an in-person meeting later in the year. After this, we turn focus onto all the international updates in our segment across the globe. US President Joe Biden on Monday declared that every American aged 16 years and above is eligible to get COVID-19 vaccine. The announcement comes weeks after President Biden wrote on Twitter that by April 19th, every adult will be eligible to be vaccinated. And he tweeted that on April 7th, at least a dozen states opened eligibility to anyone 16 years of age and older on last Monday alone, while New Jersey and Oregon announced late last week that all residents 16 years and older will become eligible on April 19th. The president had earlier announced that 90% of the adults would be eligible for one of the 3 approved COVID-19 vaccines by April 19th, in addition to having a vaccine site within 5 miles of their homes. In a video message, US President Biden said that COVID-19 vaccine is free, safe, and it's how we're going to bring the pandemic to an end.
Months I've been telling Americans to get vaccinated when it's your turn. Well, it's your turn now. Starting tomorrow, all adults are eligible to get their shot. It's free, it's convenient, and it's the most important thing you can do to protect yourself from COVID-19, including the new variants we're seeing, to protect your loved ones, to help our economy recover, and to help get things back to normal. Look, we're making tremendous progress, but we're still in the race against this virus, and we need to vaccinate tens of millions more Americans.
Portugal reopened its shopping malls, cinemas, high schools, universities, and indoor areas of restaurants, cautiously easing the COVID restrictions. Cafe owners take a sigh of relief as the conditions have begun to normalize and businesses are set to reopen. Lisbon's Amoreiras Mall has more than 200 stores, and its director said that the impact of restrictions on businesses has been brutal. With a population of just over 10 million, Portugal has suffered the pandemic with 8,31,221 cases and 16,946 deaths. No crisis in recent history has hit the country's tourism department and economy as hard, with GDP shrinking 7.6% last year, its biggest annual slump since 1936. The economic recovery doesn't only depend on the vaccination rollout, which has so far been slow, but also on the return of tourists, especially from one of the country's biggest foreign markets, Britain. Meet the Brazilian health workers who trek up into Rio de Janeiro's often violent Rosina slum to vaccinate the poor against COVID-19. Armed with medical cases carrying vaccines, syringes and sanitizing gel, the vaccination team roams through the shanty town's narrow alleyways to vaccinate the elderly and also the most vulnerable. Brazil has become one of the worst hit countries in the world by the pandemic, with some 4,000 people a day dying from COVID-19, and the healthcare system is on the verge of collapse. The P1 variant, first discovered in the Amazon city of Manaus, has quickly become dominant in Brazil. It is thought to be a major factor behind a massive second wave of infections that has brought the country's death toll to over 350,000. Up next, some Swiss restaurants and bars reopened on Monday for outdoor customers on terraces in the latest cautious easing of pandemic restrictions in the Alpine country, while others opted to stay closed, saying it wasn't worth it. Outdoor events are also now allowed with up to 100 visitors, and up to 50 audience members are permitted at indoor venues such as cinemas, theatres and concert halls. In downtown Geneva, locals were enjoying food and drinks on a chilly spring morning after last week's decision by the Swiss federal government. Bars and restaurants have been closed since November in the country. The Palexpo Center, host of the biggest conferences and events in Geneva, opened its doors as a vaccination center on Monday. The center has the capacity to vaccinate 2,000 people a day. The figure is expected to rise to 3,000 and 4,000 vaccinations per day. Switzerland has expanded its capacity to inoculate people against COVID-19 by opening mass vaccination centers like the Palexpo in other cities such as Lausanne. In Lausanne also, the largest center in the canton of Vaud opened at Palais de Bleuot, which aims to vaccinate 14,000 people a week. The number of cases has continued to steadily rise in the Alpine country over the past weeks. It increased by at least 4,905 since Friday. And hundreds of people formed long queues outside a vaccination center in Turkey's capital, Ankara, on Monday evening after the Health Ministry expanded vaccine eligibility to people aged 55 and above. Turkey, with a total population of nearly 84 million, has carried out around 20 million vaccinations, including 11.31 million first doses since January 14, when it began the nationwide inoculation campaign. Turkey ranks 4th globally in the new case numbers. Ankara has blamed lax public adherence to rules and virus variants for the surge, and on March 29th, it announced weekend lockdowns and closed restaurant dining for Ramadan. Schools of Argentina's capital opened their doors on Monday despite tightened pandemic restrictions that included to go virtual classes to curb COVID-19 pandemic. Schools of Buenos Aires opened on Monday morning after a court overruled a federal order requiring return of virtual classes for 2 weeks amidst a surge in the cases that have brought hospitals to near collapse. The Buenos Aires judge ruled on Sunday in favor of a lawsuit filed by non-governmental parents and some teachers' groups in the city, demanding a decree that suspended face-to-face classes in the capital region for the next 15 days be immediately nullified. The decision fuels political tensions between President Alberto Fernandez, who said that the school closure was necessary to tame fast-rising cases in the city, and the opposition-led Buenos Aires government, which has slammed the measure. Iranians face increasing regulations as the country battles a surge in COVID-19 cases, with the daily death toll climbing over 400 for the first time in months on Sunday. Iran recorded over 398 deaths on Monday, raising the overall toll to 67,130. As a new wave of the virus spreads across Middle East's hardest hit country, a feeling of concern grows among many Iranians, some of whom worry the authorities have failed to take sufficient action to curb the epidemic. Also, Iranian President Hassan Rouhani on Monday expressed concern as the latest surge in the cases was the most severe the country had experienced, but added that he hoped to have a domestically developed vaccine ready by summer. Businesses, schools, theatres, sport facilities and other public institutions have been forced to shut, and gatherings are banned during the fasting holy month of Ramadan. On to some more international news now. India's ambassador to China, Vikram Misri, has said that tendency to sweep the situation at border under the carpet and characterize it as just a minor issue and a matter of perspective is inadvisable, as it can only take the two countries further away from a sustained solution to present difficulties and deeper into an unfulfilling stalemate. Speaking at an online event, he said that both India and China agreed that they should stick to the consensus between the top leaders of the two countries. However, he pointed out that equally significant consensus has been reached between the two leaders in the past as well on the importance of maintaining peace and tranquility, and also it is important to stick to that consensus as well. He further said that impact of public opinion has been particularly strong due to violation of peace and tranquility at the LAC. He also reminded that in every domain, multilateral, plurilateral or bilateral, words needed to be backed up by actions. NASA's miniature robot helicopter Ingenuity performed a successful takeoff and landing on Mars early on Monday, achieving the first powered, controlled flight by an aircraft over the surface of another planet. NASA said that the twin-rotor Whirligig's debut on the red planet marked the 21st century Wright brothers moment for NASA, which said that success could pave the way for new modes of exploration on Mars and other destinations in the solar system, such as Venus and Saturn's moon Titan. The robot rotorcraft was programmed to ascend 10 feet straight up then hover and rotate in place over the Martian surface for half a minute before settling back down on its forelegs. Mission managers at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory burst into applause and cheers as engineering data beamed back from Mars confirmed that the 4-pound solar-powered helicopter had performed its maiden 40-second flight precisely as planned 3 hours earlier. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu lost an important vote on Monday over who gets to join a powerful committee in parliament, dealing him a setback as he tries to form a new government following an inconclusive election. Netanyahu has about 2 more weeks to try to bring together a ruling coalition. Defeat in the vote indicated the veteran leader still has some way to go to secure a majority in the 120-seat Knesset. Also, the vote was to decide who will join the Arrangements Committee, which, in the absence of a new government, controls the legislative agenda. President Reuven Rivlin on April 6th asked Netanyahu to form a government and gave him 28 days to do so. If unsuccessful, Netanyahu can ask Rivlin for a 2-week extension before the president taps another candidate or asks Parliament to nominate one. Cuba's ruling Communist Party elected President Jaishankar to succeed Raul Castro as party's first secretary, the most powerful position in the country, on the final day of its Congress on Monday. The succession marks the end of 6 decades of rule by brothers Fidel and Raul Castro, who led Cuba's leftist 1959 revolution. The mantle now passes to a younger generation that worked its way up the party ranks rather than forging itself through guerrilla warfare. Jaishankar was party chief in 2 provinces before joining the national government as education minister in 2009 and then in 2013 became Castro's right-hand man. He had emphasized continuity since becoming president and is not expected to move Cuba away from its one-party socialist system. Minneapolis and other U.S. cities were ramping up security measures on Monday, girding for possible protest after a jury delivers a verdict in the trial of former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin, charged with murdering George Floyd by kneeling on his neck. Citing threat of civil unrest, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz declared a preemptive state of emergency in the Minneapolis metropolitan area and requested security assistance from other states. Local officers were stressed, having policed a week of protests over the fatal police shooting of a black man in a Minneapolis suburb and bracing for more protests over the Chauvin trial verdict. As jury began deliberating charges of 3rd and 2nd degree murder and 2nd degree manslaughter against Chauvin, Minneapolis and state officials have heightened security precautions, girding the courthouse tower with barbed wire and also armed soldiers from the National Guard. A few miles from the courtroom, nightly protests have fled in Brooklyn Center, Minnesota, over the police shooting of a 20-year-old black man, Don Wright, after a routine traffic stop on April 11th. In the meantime, George Floyd's family members and civil rights leaders prayed outside the courthouse, where jurors heard closing arguments in the murder trial of former Minneapolis policeman Derek Chauvin. Prosecutors have told the jury that they are weighing the guilt of only one man, but their verdict would nonetheless be widely seen as a reckoning in the way the United States polices the black people. Meanwhile, Chauvin's lawyers argued that he correctly followed the training he received over 19 years with Minneapolis Police Department, which fired him the day after Floyd's arrest and sought to raise doubts about the cause of Floyd's death. The Kremlin on Monday said that it does not accept what it called provocative calls for nationwide protests in support of jailed opposition politician Alexei Navalny, whose health has gravely deteriorated while on hunger strike in prison. In a press conference, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said that unauthorized rallies in support of Navalny could be considered illegal by the authorities. This comes as Navalny's allies have announced plans for what they hope will be the largest protest in modern Russian history on Wednesday. Navalny started refusing food on March 31st in protest at what he said was the refusal of prison authorities to provide him with adequate medical care for acute leg and back pain. The United States has warned Russia that it will pay a price if he dies in jail from his hunger strike. Coming out as a warning, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki said that what happens to Kremlin critic Alexei Navalny in Russia's custody is the responsibility of the Russian government and the world will hold them accountable. She said in the interim, the objective is continuing to push for his release and reiterate our view that he must be treated humanely.
We continue to reiterate our view that that what happens to Mr. Navalny in the custody of the Russian government is the responsibility of the Russian government and that they will be held accountable by the international community. In the interim, our objective is, of course, continuing to call for, push for his release and reiterate our view that he must be treated humanely.
Up next, we get to our segment, Web News Review, wherein a colleague joins us with what all has been put forth in the social media websites. And to get us the web review this morning, Tapas is joining us. Tapas, let us know what all headlines have you picked up for us from the social media platforms.
Good morning, Preeti. And yes, let's start with the first news that the Delhi government has advanced the summer vacation in all schools in the national capital in view of the COVID-19 crisis. Earlier, the vacation was scheduled to start from 11th of May till 3rd of June, and it has now been rescheduled from 20th of April to June 9th. So that was the first news that you are tracking. The second news is multinational pharma giant Johnson & Johnson has applied to India's drug regulator seeking permission for its single dose of COVID-19 vaccine as a third phase of clinical trial. That is the second news that we are tracking that was making waves in the social media once the news started pouring in about that. The third news is Noida. Delhi is neighboring city is Noida has extended the night curfew in Noida as well as in Greater Noida till April 30th in a bid to check the spread of the COVID-19 infection. So that is another news that was making waves. Remember, Delhi has also imposed a curfew lockdown in the national capital. So this is another city that had started that. Now coming to the sports news that was making waves as Jose Mourinho's tenure at Tottenham that came to an end. Tottenham sacked Jose Mourinho after just 17 months in charge. The Portuguese was replaced by Mario Pochettino as first manager in November 2019 and guided the club to its sixth in the Premier League last season. But they have now parted ways with Jose Mourinho. The other news, the news that was from sports was Guardian that said that cricket in England facing logistical headaches after India placed on red list. That's the news from Guardian, where they're supposed to there was supposed to be a tour of England and India. So that now is right now in a jeopardy considering the situation in the country. The last but definitely not the least is news that from Twitter, which was trending, especially of Marvel, where Marvel unveils its first look of the superhero film Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. So that was the news that was going around in social media, and everybody, Marvel in fact tweeted its promo of this particular movie, and it was really trending late in the evening as well as early morning in the website along with the social media. So those are some of the major news that made waves, especially when it comes to the lockdown in Delhi as well as in Noida. And that's what we have right now shown you. Preeti, for more news and updates, back to you.
All right, Tapas, thank you so much for joining us with that web review this morning. Let's turn focus on to sports updates in our segment Sports Track. Amidst disturbances in the football world following announcement of Super League by 12 teams yesterday, UEFA has approved new format for club competitions. The new Champions League format is due to start in 2024 and run until at least 2033. The new format will see 36 clubs qualifying for an expanded first phase where all clubs will play against 10 opponents of varying strengths. Now, this will result in a league table with the top 8 qualifying for the knockout phase and the next 16 going into a playoff for the remaining 8 slots. The format has been criticized by fans groups, not least because 2 of the additional 4 slots will be allocated on the basis of past performance to the clubs with the highest UEFA coefficient that did not qualify for the League Champions League automatically but did qualify for another European competition. Let's turn focus on to cricket now. We'll get to updates on IPL. The spin duo of Ravindra Jadeja and Moeen Ali tormented the Rajasthan Royals batting lineup to ensure a second consecutive win over Chennai Super Kings in the IPL on Monday. Cameos from Faf du Plessis, Dwayne Bravo, Ambati Rayudu and Ali helped CSK post 188 for 9 after being put into bat. Royals made a promising start in the run chase courtesy Jos Butler before the batsmen succumbed to the spinners in the Wankhede Stadium, which offered more turn than the earlier games. CSK won the game by 45 runs after Royals' innings ended at 143 for 9. Time now to get to the health segment. Summers affect our health in many ways. Hot weather can bring many problems for your digestive health. Let's find out the effective ways to prevent digestion-related problems during the summer season.
Stomach infections and many other gastro problems are quite common during summers. What precautions should be taken? Let's understand from Dr. Pramod Garg. Dr. Garg, how common are gastro problems in the summer season?
In summers and also in rainy season, the major problem that we see is of infections. Infection could either be because of bacteria or viruses, and these cause what we call as acute gastroenteritis or acute infection in your intestine. The common manifestations of these infections include pain in the abdomen, vomitings, and loose motions or diarrhea. Sometimes there may be blood in these stools, which may be more serious.
In case of diarrhea, what should be a proper management?
Most patients do not require antibiotics. The most important treatment of acute infection is water intake should be adequate. And for this, we have oral rehydration solution available, which can be taken from the primary health centers, over-the-counter shops, and you can make it at home by mixing some salt and sugar and maybe some lemon in the water. Take adequate amount of this so that you are well hydrated. The urine output should be adequate. If someone has low urine output, fever is very high, there is blood in the stools, or if the diarrhea continues beyond 1 or 2 days, I think it is best to consult your doctor and go to a hospital.
How can all these problems during summers be prevented?
Make sure that your water which you take is from a safe source. We can chlorinate the water to make it disinfected. And otherwise, the best solution for every household is to boil the water if you are not sure of the quality of the water that you receive. With regard to your food intake, it's always good to have home cooked meal. Whenever you have cooked food, wherever it is at home or outside, it is usually safe because heat kills the germs, the bacteria and the viruses, the germs that cause infection. So I think the best precaution is to take safe drinking water, adequate water during summers, and also making sure that you eat healthy cooked food.
Thank you, Dr. Pramod Garg, for talking to us. Take good care of hygiene while cooking. Be cautious about what you eat and what you drink to keep away gastro problems in the summer months. Kiran Bhardwaj, DD News.
And that was the health tip of the day. Up next, we take a look at weather forecast. Under the influence of a western disturbance, fairly widespread to widespread rainfall, snowfall likely over western Himalayan region, that is Jammu, Kashmir, Ladakh, Gilgit-Baltistan and Muzaffarabad, Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand during 20th to 22nd of April, and also isolated to scattered rainfall along with thunderstorm and gusty winds likely over adjoining plains of northwest India during this period. Due to wind convergence and moisture feed from Bay of Bengal in lower tropospheric levels, scattered to fairly widespread rainfall is likely over northeast India during the next 2 days, along with isolated heavy rainfall over Arunachal Pradesh. No significant heat wave condition is likely over the country during the next 4 to 5 days. And now we take a look at major temperatures across major cities in the country. That brings us to the end of this edition of Breakfast News. But before we go, we leave you with this reminder every day to be part of the Mask Up India initiative, which we're running on DD India. Remember, at this time, we have to be very careful in the fight against the pandemic. Wear a mask, wear it correctly and properly, maintain social distancing, and also follow the COVID protocols. Before we leave, we leave you with insights of what goes into the training for NASA's SpaceX mission aboard the Crew Dragon capsule. Take a look. Have a good day ahead. Bye-bye.